Finance Freeway, Series 2, Bon Betty's Brilliant Idea. After receiving a minimum investment of love from her parents, Bon Betty was born a happy and healthy municipal bond from the Finance Freeway Government Hospital. Bon Betty was excited to begin her life in Finance Freeway, but like most baby bonds, Bon Betty quickly became hungry and started craving ice cream. Unfortunately for Bon Betty, she was only born with one value point in her pocket, and even a small ice cream would cost 2 value points. Bon Betty was sad because she only needed one more value point to buy the ice cream. Suddenly Bon Betty felt a tingle coming from her wand. All members of the Bon family are born with a magic wand called a coupon wand that fills up with a magic substance over time. Bon Betty's coupon wand reached its limit of magic substance and created her second value point. Although value points are consistently produced from the coupon wand, there is a long time span between the creations of each value point. Bon Betty now had enough value points to buy her small ice cream. As she headed for the local ice cream shop, she got a weird feeling that her value points may be in danger. Meanwhile, in a dark alley in Finance Freeway, Inflation Crustacean was rummaging for interest rates to eat. Interest rates are like a main course for Inflation Crustacean, and whenever she eats one, she becomes bigger and stronger. Value points, on the other hand, are like a dessert. Because of this, Inflation Crustacean is always looking to eat more interest rates and value points. Every so often, Inflation Crustacean would worry that if she didn't eat enough interest rates, she would get weak and shrink. Though her worrying quickly stopped when she caught the whiff of value points coming from a distance. This was bad for Bon Betty because although she knew of Inflation Crustacean, she never had to bother with her, until now. Bon Betty was standing in front of the ice cream shop and drooling over the royal sundae when Inflation Crustacean startled her. Before Bon Betty could make like a stock and split, she was grabbed and shaken until her 2 value points fell out of her pocket and rolled away. Inflation Crustacean then picked up and ate one of Bon Betty's value points right in front of her as she watched in disbelief. Bon Betty was distraught because now she was back where she started with 1 value point. Inflation Crustacean laughed at Bon Betty's misfortune because she cares only about herself and not how her actions affect others. Bon Betty knew that if she didn't do something to stop Inflation Crustacean's bullying, then she would continue to terrorize her. Instead of running away scared, Bon Betty stood up for herself and yelled at Inflation Crustacean, "It's wrong to take what's not yours. How would you like it if someone stole your interest rates?" Unfortunately, it looked like Inflation Crustacean didn't care about what Bon Betty had to say, and let out a long and insulting yawn. Inflation Crustacean pushed past Bon Betty and said angrily, "Out of my way." Then she knocked Bon Betty into the road and slightly lowered her principal self-esteem. Inflation Crustacean continued, "The more interest rates I eat, the stronger I become, and the more I'll want to snack on your value points. You'll never get rid of me." At first, Bon Betty didn't know how to stop Inflation Crustacean from stealing her value points. Then, suddenly, she had a brilliant idea. She would hide the interest rates from Inflation Crustacean. This would prevent her from getting stronger and stealing Bon Betty's value points. Bon Betty had 4 places in mind where Inflation Crustacean would never find the hidden interest rates. Now, Inflation Crustacean would go crazy looking for the hidden interest rates. Eventually, she would get weaker and be unable to steal Bon Betty's value points. If Bon Betty was like her more aggressive cousins, the high-yield bonds, maybe she would have taken Inflation Crustacean head-on. However, this more conservative approach of hiding interest rates was a perfect fit for Bon Betty. Shortly after hiding the interest rates, Inflation Crustacean became frantic. She couldn't find any interest rates to eat and became weaker and smaller. Bon Betty smiled to herself as she walked into the sunset with her 1 remaining value point. She knew that she would need help to buy the royal sundae and was determined to continue exploring Finance Freeway in pursuit of finding the help or friends that she needed.